Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you guys a story, and there is a deadly substance known as fentanyl that we've talked about on this channel before because it's actually caused the death of some children, and there were some situations where there were parents that were arrested because of the fact that we believe that the parents caused their children to die from having this substance around or actually intentionally giving the substance to the kids. But let me tell you guys about this story of this beautiful little girl right there on my screen. Her name was Aaliyah Janae Murrah. Aaliyah Janae Murrah was a very young baby, and she could have grown up into becoming anything. But these two idiots that y'all see on my screen did not allow them to even get an opportunity to grow up and become something great. So, officers of the Stark Police Department responded to the 801 South Water Street Orange Apartments in reference to an unresponsive 3-year-old female. Upon arrival, officers found the child to be without a pulse and immediately began life-saving efforts until relieved by the Stark Fire Department and Bradford County Fire Rescue. Life-saving efforts continued while the child was transported to North Florida Stark Emergency Room, where this baby was subsequently pronounced dead. Detectives from the Stark Police Department responded to the scene and began a suspicious death investigation. Detectives did not note any obvious cause of death, and the child was transported to the District 8 Medical Examiner's Office for an autopsy to be performed. Now, on December 3rd of 2020, which is this month, the autopsy results were obtained from the District 8 Medical Examiner's Office, and the toxicology report indicated that this baby, let me see if I get her face back up on the screen, this beautiful little girl right here, died from an overdose of a high quantity of fentanyl. Fentanyl. If y'all don't know how deadly fentanyl is, it is a very deadly white looking powder, and just the dust of that powder, just a little bit of dust of that powder could kill a full grown adult. Just a little bit of it. So it's very, very powerful. Fentanyl is a very powerful narcotic that has been responsible for many deaths throughout the country. Through the collection of evidence and interviewing witnesses, it was determined that at the time the child ingested the fentanyl, the only people present with her were the mother and father. And let me see if I can get y'all their names. Warrants were obtained for the father. His name is Shawn D. Murrah, who was on the left-hand side. Actually, let's flip him around now. He's on the right-hand side right there. And Delana A. King, who is on the left-hand side right now, who is the mother. And both of them were charged with aggravated child neglect causing great bodily injury. Let me let you guys catch the fair usage real quick, and let me show y'all the news videos that came out. Let's get it. Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without the authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use. It is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 U.S.C. 107.
Now back to the breaking news in Bradford County. Investigators say a couple's 3-year-old daughter overdosed on fentanyl and it took her life. Now her mother and father are locked up. The autopsy report revealed the child had a high quantity of fentanyl in her system.
The girl died in August, but that report just came back, which is what led to these arrests. News4Jax reporter Joe McLean joining us live from the apartment complex where the couple lived in Stark. Joe?
Yeah, this is where Delana King and Shawn Murrah were arrested today. Well, this is where they lived, in one of these apartment complexes. The investigators say it was on August 26th that they were called to one of these apartments on South Water Street about an unconscious 3-year-old girl. Now, they found the child. They tried to revive her, but sadly she died at an area hospital. At the time, now, investigators say they didn't see any obvious reason for the child's death. No injuries, no evidence of harm, anything like that. that, the department launched a suspicious death investigation. And when the results of the autopsy came back, that's when police say they learned that the child had taken, quote, a high quantity of fentanyl, causing the young child to overdose. Now, you'll remember fentanyl is an opioid. It's a synthetic opiate, about 80 to 100 times more powerful than morphine. That's according to the CDC. Now, it's also increasingly common cause of overdose deaths in the United States. Now, police say their investigation found that the only other two people in the room when the child took the drug were her mother and father. That's why the pair are now charged with aggravated child neglect, and it's a higher charge when it causes great bodily injury. So they are being held each on a on a bond of $1 million each. We're going to have more about this coming up later tonight. Reporting live in Stark, Joe McLean, Channel 4, the local station.
A heartbreaking story out of Bradford County tonight. These parents are facing charges after their 3-year-old daughter died of a drug overdose. It happened in late August, but the toxicology report was just released yesterday.
It showed a large amount of fentanyl in the child's system. News4JAX reporter Joe McLean was in Stark tonight, speaking with police and medical experts about the case.
This apartment complex on Water Street is where Stark police showed up in late August to help revive an unconscious, unresponsive 3-year-old girl. At the time, they said they had no idea it was because of an opioid overdose. It was the night of August 26th. Stark police and Bradford Fire and Rescue fighting to keep a 3-year-old child alive. A fight first responders lost. The girl died at North Florida Stark ER. The death ruled suspicious, but it would be weeks before the toxicology report showed it was a fentanyl overdose. Stark Police Lieutenant Michael Rooney said the medical team didn't use naloxone, the drug used to reverse overdoses.
Not specifically at that time, because we didn't have any indications that a narcotic was a cause for the unresponsiveness.
Rooney said his investigation found that the only people who were in the room when the child would have taken the drug were her mother, Delana King, and her father, Shawn Murrah. They were arrested Friday for aggravated child neglect.
It's somber, you know. It's not a win for law enforcement because we put people in jail because this 3-year-old is no longer with us. You know, even at the end of this, you know, we pray for the family, we pray for that child, we pray for the extended family. Everyone, no one's winning in this.
Rooney said he's seen an increase in drug-related overdose deaths, with fentanyl a common culprit. Doctors I spoke to stressed the danger of these drugs, especially for children.
What should people know and what should people be reminded of about opioids and fentanyl in particular?
When you're talking about opioids and fentanyl in particular, because it's so potent, where even in adults, you know, it's particularly a dangerous thing for them. Obviously, for a kid, that risk is compounded even further, and that makes it that much more of a scary situation.
Fentanyl is actually pretty strong. It's 50 to 100 times stronger than morphine or even heroin, and it's also very, very cheap. And so one of the biggest issues with fentanyl is it's a little bit more readily available than some of the other opioids that are out there.
Doctors say if you are prescribed a pain medication like an opioid, there are 2 important things you need to do. First, keep them out of reach of children. And second, it's a good idea as a precaution to have a dose or 2 of naloxone, like Narcan, just in case of an accidental overdose. In Stark, Joe McLean, Channel 4, the local station.
I don't understand how they're even able to get this stuff around like that, knowing how deadly it is. But let me say that, yes, thank you. Let me give a shout out real quick to the chat. And you're absolutely right. It said fentanyl is so dangerous, you need gloves to handle that drug. Why would you have that in your home? How do you even get that in your home? One of our channel members asked that, and I don't understand how they got it. But let me say this real quick. Let me see. The mother was arrested Friday by Stark officers and booked into the Bradford County Jail, where she's being held on a $1 million bond. The Alachua County Sheriff's Office arrested Murrah, the father, at a residence in Gainesville. He was booked into the Alachua County Jail, where he's also being held on a $1 million bond pending extradition to Bradford County. Now, medical experts say that opioids, fentanyl in particular, can pose an extreme danger of overdose even in adults. Like I said, I don't even understand how you even get access to that. But let me go ahead and play the rest of these news videos. Let's get it.
A 3-year-old girl dead from a fentanyl overdose in August and her parents arrested. Now the grandfather's talking to Action News Jax. I'm Letitia Barriola in for Tanika tonight.
I'm John Bachman. We first told you at 4 today the parents are facing child neglect charges. Action News Jax Ryan Nelson is live in Stark. And Ryan, you spoke to the child's grandfather tonight.
Did allow us to record that conversation and use it for this story. And he tells me that the family is distraught. And this behind me that you see here is the apartment complex where police say they found that little girl without a pulse. And that grandfather is asking the public to not make speculations in this case. Stark police say the powerful narcotic fentanyl claimed the life of a 3-year-old girl at the Orangewood apartment complex in August. Now, the girl's parents, Delana King and Shawn Murrah, are in jail on aggravated child neglect charges. Investigators got the results of the child's autopsy on Thursday.
We lost my granddaughter earlier this year, and now to have this brought all the way back up again. So yeah, all of us were sad.
Tonight, Action News Jax spoke to Delana King's father, the grandfather of the child.
We are really distraught right now and really trying to get ourselves together.
Police say they responded to a call of an unresponsive child at the apartment complex on August 26th. First responders performed CPR at the scene and on the way to the hospital, where she was later pronounced dead. When Stark police did not find an obvious cause of death, they began a suspicious death investigation. I asked King if there was ever an indication of drug use by his daughter, and he said no. He also tells me he does not believe the child's parents are responsible for the child's overdose, and asked the public not to speculate on the facts of the case.
Not make speculations if you don't know what happened. You have to do due process. Due process has to run its course.
And King was arrested in Stark and is in the Bradford County Jail. Murrah was arrested in Gainesville and is in the Alachua County Jail, and he is pending extradition to Bradford County. And Stark police say that they're grateful for the cooperation of the Alachua County Sheriff's Office. They said that their cooperation allowed both arrests to be made today.
Let me say this. As far as pertaining to what the grandfather said, I do understand what he's saying and where he's coming from, but thank you. The public is going to speculate, and we have every right to do so. It's public opinion, especially based on what you're arrested with. There is a child that is dead. Why is the child not the focus? Huh? And I've told y'all this before. They worry so much about us not judging adults that they completely forget about the kids. Like, why don't the kids matter? I believe it doesn't matter as far as how you speculate based on what they're arrested with. They have charges for a reason, and we can speculate based on those charges because that's what's going to be used against them in court. And in a lot of cases, they have a pretty high conviction rate whenever they charge people with something, meaning that the parents did something wrong, and we have every right to speculate based on the information that's put out there, based on the facts, based on those details. Yes? All right, let's go.
That breaking news, 2 parents are in jail and facing charges for their child's overdose death. Investigators say the 3-year-old died in August, and a new report from the medical examiner's office says that the child died from fentanyl. I'm John Bachman.
I'm Letitia Barriola in for Tanika Hughes. Fentanyl is a very powerful drug. It's responsible for tens of thousands of deaths throughout the country. Action News Jax Ryan Nelson is live in Stark. And Ryan, the parents are being held on a $1 million bond.
And Letitia, we're joining you live from the entrance of the Orangewood apartment complex in Stark. This is where police say they responded and tried to save that little girl's life. Stark police say on August 26th, officers responded to a call here of an unresponsive 3-year-old girl. She died at the hospital. Just yesterday, 99 days after her death, an autopsy showed she died of a fentanyl overdose. Police say the girl's parents, Delana A. King and Shawn Murrah, were the only people in the home when the child ingested the fentanyl. King and Murrah were arrested today and are being held on a $1 million bond. Right now, they are each charged with aggravated child neglect with great bodily harm, but not charged in the toddler's death. And we're working to speak to neighbors about what they may have seen here on that day in August. We're also looking to see if either of the parents have a criminal past, and we're working on that part of the story for you, all new at 6. Reporting in Stark, Ryan Nelson, CBS 47, Fox 30, Action News Jax.
Moments ago, I spoke with Action News Jax law and safety expert Dale Carson about the charges and the prison time these parents could face if convicted. Why child neglect charges for these parents and not murder charges?
You know, murder charges require an intent that may be difficult to prove. If you simply leave a deadly narcotic out, that clearly is aggravated child abuse if the child imbibes it and then dies from it. So this is essentially a life felony, but it is not a murder charge. It would be usual to charge murder, but if you can't prove that beyond a reasonable doubt, certainly the alternative is what they've charged here, which is aggravated child abuse.
So there's your answer to that.
So take every
If you guys did not get a chance to properly watch that memorial, I think you can actually Google search it and pull it up. The memorial that they had for that little girl was very nice. It was a very nice send-off. But for whatever reason that they had this drug inside the house, I just don't know if there is any excuse that's good enough. And I understand where the grandfather is coming from, saying that we should reserve judgment, but that's just not the way that I get down, because I believe that we should definitely make sure that we do everything that we can to make sure that our children are not put in any harm's way, and definitely not at our hands if we can control it. I don't know why people would just randomly have a drug like fentanyl around, an opioid, or whatever it is. Why would you have that type of thing around at all? So dangerous, so potent, but I would have to imagine it was probably for some type of illicit reason. I can say that because, like I said, you know, we've seen a lot of situations where this has happened, and I just can't think of any feasible, any decent reason why that type of drug for be around inside a home at all. And for that, like I say, I think that the police have done a good job so far, and I think the courts are going to do their part in this to make sure that we get a proper conviction based on what they find these people guilty for. In my humble opinion, I believe that for the negligence alone that cost them their daughter's life, that should give them a very long time in prison. But it's my personal opinion. I want to know what you guys think. And again, we'll try to fix the internet issues so that way we can stream a little bit better for you guys to be able to tell these important stories, so that way that you guys can get a full idea about what our thoughts are and what's out there in the news and what is actually going on with our babies. We're going to continue to advocate for children first. That's why we're the AFC. And we're going to continue to keep giving these babies a voice, because they cannot speak for themselves, nor can they defend themselves. Okay? From my heart to yours, I love you guys. Thank you guys so much for listening to this story. We'll see you guys on the next stream. We'll continue to work to try to get better and present you guys with more full stories, hopefully without too many issues trying to stream them. Okay? Y'all have a blessed day, and y'all have a great evening. Okay? Peace.